Hi there, and welcome back to Peasy English, the podcast that makes learning English simple, kind, and human. Today's episode is one I think every learner needs to hear, especially on those frustrating days when your brain just blanks. You're in a conversation, you know what you want to say, but suddenly, the word disappears. Gone. Silent. And in that moment, it's easy to feel embarrassed, or stuck, or like you're bad at English. But let me tell you something important. It's okay to forget words. Really, it's more than okay. It's normal. It's part of the process. And even native speakers do it. So today, we're going to talk about why forgetting words is not a sign of failure, but a sign of growth. We'll explore how to respond when it happens, how to stay confident in those moments, and how forgetting can actually strengthen your memory over time. So take a breath. You're not broken. You're just human. Let's begin. Have you ever been in the middle of a sentence, and suddenly, nothing? The word you just learned yesterday disappears. You know the meaning. You can even see it in your head. But the sound? The spelling? Gone. Your mind goes blank, your tongue freezes, and you feel a wave of frustration wash over you. You think, why is this happening? I knew this word. What's wrong with me? But let me stop you right there, nothing is wrong with you. You're not failing. You're learning. Forgetting is part of learning. It's not a mistake, it's how your brain works. Our minds are not machines. We don't just download a word once and have it forever. We need repetition. We need context. We need time. Think about your first language. Even in that language, you sometimes pause, say, or forget the name of something. So why do we expect our English to be perfect all the time? The truth is, when you forget a word, your brain is doing something interesting. It's trying to organize information. It's searching. It's testing different paths. And yes, sometimes it fails, but in that failure, it's learning which connections are weak, and which ones are strong. And when you remember the word later, it sticks better. That forget then recall pattern is actually one of the most effective ways to build long-term memory. So let's change the story. Instead of saying, ugh, I forgot again, say, now I get another chance to remember. Make forgetting part of your rhythm, not your reason to quit. Because honestly, forgetting is feedback. It tells you what needs a little more love and review. Now, let's talk about those awkward moments, the ones where you're in a conversation, and a word slips away. That silence feels like a spotlight. Your heart beats faster. You feel embarrassed. Maybe you stop talking altogether. But here's the thing, you don't have to. You don't have to run away from that moment. There are other ways to keep going, and those ways actually make you a better communicator. You can describe the word. Use gestures. Say, you know, the thing that, or use simpler vocabulary. Instead of, I'm exhausted, say, I'm very tired. Instead of, delicious, say, really good. This skill, explaining something without the exact word, is called circumlocution, and it's one of the most useful tools in any language. Native speakers do it all the time. You do it in your first language. So trust yourself, you already know how. And let's take the pressure off, fluency doesn't mean knowing every word. Fluency means keeping the conversation going, even when you don't. It's the ability to flow, to stay in motion. To stay connected. To stay confident, even in the middle of imperfection. And that kind of fluency, it comes not from memorizing thousands of words, but from building the habit of not giving up when you forget one. Sometimes we focus so much on what we don't know that we ignore what we've already learned. So let me ask you this, how many words have you remembered in the last month? How many sentences have you said, maybe not perfectly, but with heart? How many times did you choose to keep speaking, even when you were nervous? That's not failure. That's growth. That's courage. That's learning. Forgetting words isn't a reason to feel small. It's a reminder that you're stretching your mind. That you're pushing yourself. That you're brave enough to try. And in every try, something new sticks. Even better, when you do remember that forgotten word later, it feels amazing. Like a little victory. You smile. You feel proud. That word becomes yours. And you carry it forward with more confidence than before. So here's a new mindset to carry with you. If I forget a word today, that just means I'll remember it better tomorrow. This way, the fear loses its power. You stop blaming yourself. You stop feeling broken. And you start seeing your journey for what it really is, a messy, beautiful, totally normal process of becoming bilingual. Because, truly, forgetting a word isn't the end of a conversation, it's just a pause. And how you handle that pause. That's where the magic happens. That's where confidence is built. That's where you learn to say, hang on. I know this, with a smile, not shame. And if you're really struggling with a specific word, you can use that as a cue, write it down, make a funny sentence with it, draw a picture, say it out loud 5 times while doing something physical, like walking, or clapping. Link it to a song lyric. A smell. A color. Make it yours. Our brains remember things better when they're emotional, visual, or connected to something personal. But also, don't try to force every word into your memory. Let your learning breathe. You're not a robot. You're a human being, learning a second language, and that's an incredibly courageous thing. Some words will stick today. Others will take weeks. That's not weakness. That's the nature of the process. In fact, the act of letting go of the pressure to remember everything might actually help you remember more. When your brain feels safe, not stressed, it learns faster. So be kind to yourself when a word escapes. Be playful. Be relaxed. That's when your English starts to flow more naturally. And don't forget, communication is more than vocabulary. It's your tone, your expression, your body language, your energy. You can forget a word and still be completely understood. You can pause and still be powerful. You can say, sorry, I don't know that word, and still sound confident, because confidence isn't about knowing everything. It's about believing in your ability to keep going. That's what I want you to take from today's message. Forgetting doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. And humans are learners. Curious, imperfect, wonderful learners. Learners like you. One of the most beautiful things about forgetting a word is what it reveals. It shows you that learning a language is not just a mental activity, it's an emotional one. When you forget something and feel frustrated, it's because you care. You want to be understood. You want to improve. That's passion, not failure. That's a learner's heart in action. Let's say you're telling a story and the perfect word doesn't come. You pause. You feel that small panic rising. Now, most learners assume that this is a sign of weakness. But actually, it's a sign of maturity. It shows you're reaching for something beyond your current level. That's a good thing. It means you're stretching. You're trying to connect higher-level thoughts to your language. That's the edge of growth, and that's exactly where you want to be. Think of learning English like learning to dance. In the beginning, you focus on every step. You forget one and step on your partner's foot. You feel awkward. But you keep practicing. And eventually, you stop thinking about the steps, and you start feeling the music. English is the same. Forgetting the steps, the words, isn't the end. It's the beginning of fluidity. Because the more you dance, the more natural it becomes. But to get there, you need to keep dancing, even when you mess up. Here's another way to look at it: when you forget a word in conversation, you're not failing the language. You're using the language to discover what you need next. That moment of forgetting actually points you to what your brain is ready to learn deeper. So instead of judging yourself, treat it like feedback. I need to review that word a bit more. And then move on. Don't stay stuck in self-blame. That energy isn't helpful. What helps is curiosity. A gentle attitude. A mindset of exploration. You don't need to memorize 10,000 words to be an excellent communicator. You just need a small set of words you can actually use. And the only way to build that set is by using it. Making mistakes with it. Forgetting, then remembering. Speaking, then fixing. That's how real fluency is built, not through perfection, but through repetition with heart. Let's also talk about emotional safety. If every time you forget a word, you feel shame, your brain will start associating English with danger. With judgment. And that makes it harder to remember anything at all. But if you treat those moments gently, if you say to yourself, that's okay. I'll get it next time, you create a safe environment for learning. And when the brain feels safe, it opens up. It absorbs more. It remembers better. That's not just psychology, that's neuroscience. You may also be wondering, but what if I keep forgetting the same word over and over again? That's normal too. Some words are just tricky. They don't have strong emotional anchors in your brain yet. So instead of repeating them in isolation, try putting them into your life. Use them in a sentence about you. Use them in a joke. In a message to a friend. The more personal the word becomes, the more likely it will stick. Also, stop thinking of forgetting as something that shouldn't happen. It will happen. It happens to everyone, native speakers, teachers, even podcast hosts. The difference isn't whether we forget, but how we respond when it happens. Do we freeze? Or do we stay playful? Do we get discouraged? Or do we lean in with curiosity? You have the power to choose your response. And that response is what builds your identity as a speaker. Here's something practical: create a little, forgotten word list. Every time a word escapes you during a conversation, write it down afterward. Not during, stay present during the moment. But later, reflect on it. Keep that list somewhere easy to reach, on your phone, in a notebook, on your wall. Then return to it occasionally. Not obsessively, just casually. Review a few words while waiting for coffee. Practice a few during your walk. Over time, you'll notice your "I keep forgetting this" list getting shorter. And that feels amazing. But even more important than that list is your reaction to forgetting. If you can forget a word and still feel calm, still smile, still continue the conversation, then you're developing one of the most valuable skills in any language: emotional fluency. That's the ability to manage your mindset while communicating. And that skill will serve you far beyond just English. Because here's the truth: no one remembers everything. Not even in their native language. We all hesitate. We all say, and what's the word again? The difference is, fluent speakers don't panic. They've just learned how to keep going through the forgetting. And you can too. So instead of chasing a perfect vocabulary, chase comfort. Chase flow. Chase the ability to stay connected to your thoughts even when the perfect word doesn't appear. That's the kind of speaker people love talking to. Not the one who knows every word, but the one who makes them feel relaxed. Warm. Understood. And guess what? Forgetting words might actually help you connect better. When you pause and say, "I'm looking for the word," it means when you feel, people lean in. They want to help. They feel useful. They become part of your communication. And that moment becomes less about grammar, and more about human connection. You didn't start learning English to become a dictionary. You started learning to express yourself. To connect. To share your ideas, your stories, your perspective. And you can do that, even with missing words. Even with hesitation. Even with silence. Because in those quiet moments between forgotten words, that's where courage lives. And here's something else to think about: when you forget a word and try to explain it differently, maybe with hand gestures, maybe with simpler language, you're not failing. You're growing. That act of finding another way to express yourself is called language flexibility. It's a skill that even native speakers use all the time. And you know what? It's incredibly powerful. Because it shows that you don't give up the moment something goes wrong. You adjust. You adapt. You communicate. That's the real goal, isn't it? Some of the best conversations in the world happen not because people are fluent, but because they're patient and creative. They use what they know. They smile through the pauses. They laugh at their mistakes. They're real. And people love real. People don't want perfect. They want presence. They want connection. And when you forget a word, but keep showing up, with your heart open and your effort visible, that's exactly what you're giving them. Let's go even deeper. Forgetting isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's a sign that your brain is working hard. That it's learning, sorting, rewiring, organizing. When your brain forgets something, it's not being lazy, it's deciding what's important. It's building mental shortcuts. And with enough repetition and time, the things that felt hard yesterday become easy today. That's why forgetting a word is not a failure, it's part of the natural rhythm of learning. A pause before the breakthrough. Do you know what great language learners have in common? Not massive vocabularies. Not perfect grammar. But this one thing: they're not afraid to look silly. They know they'll forget words. They know they'll say weird things. They're okay with it. They laugh, they keep talking, they enjoy the ride. That attitude is what makes them better over time. Not because they know more, but because they use what they know more often. And maybe, just maybe, forgetting a word is also a reminder that we don't need to know everything right now. That language learning isn't a race to the finish line. It's a daily walk, one word, one phrase, one smile at a time. Forgetting teaches you patience. It teaches you humility. And it teaches you something even deeper, that you are enough right now. Even without the perfect word. Even in the middle of a pause. Because when you focus too much on the words you don't know, you forget to celebrate the ones you do. You forget how far you've come. You forget that months ago, you couldn't even introduce yourself in English. And now, you're listening to a full podcast. You're thinking, in English. You're feeling emotions, in English. That's huge. That's not something small. That's not something to be ignored. That's proof that your journey is real, and that your growth is happening, even when it doesn't feel obvious. So here's a mindset shift for you: instead of saying, "I forgot the word," try saying, "I'm learning the word." That small shift in your language makes a big shift in your confidence. One version focuses on lack. The other focuses on growth. And growth is what we're here for. And let's be honest, even native speakers forget words sometimes. They say, "What's that word again?" or, "It's on the tip of my tongue." The difference is, they don't panic when it happens. They just keep going. That's the mindset I want you to have, too. A calm, confident voice inside that says, "It's okay. I'll figure it out. I'll try again. I'm learning." When you accept that forgetting is normal, you stop fighting your brain. You stop putting pressure on every sentence. You stop holding your breath when you speak. And instead, you let things flow. You trust the process. You trust yourself. And that's when your English starts feeling less like a test, and more like a tool. A tool for connection. For storytelling. For being you in another language. So the next time you forget a word mid-sentence, pause, smile, and keep going. Describe it another way. Point to something. Use your hands. Ask the person to help you. Say, "What's the word for?" and make it a moment of learning, not embarrassment. Because it's those small moments, those vulnerable, human, brave moments, that build your fluency faster than anything else. The truth is, fluency isn't just about words. It's about willingness. Willingness to try. To speak. To forget. And to try again. You are not falling behind just because you forgot something. You're not failing because your mind went blank. You are in motion. You are alive in the process. You are walking your path. And you're doing it beautifully, one sentence at a time. Sometimes, the fear of forgetting a word is even worse than forgetting the word itself. You sit there, overthinking every sentence, worried that your mind might go blank. And you know what that does? It blocks your natural flow. It makes you speak less. It takes the joy out of communication. But here's the secret, the fear loses its power the moment you stop giving it control. The moment you tell yourself, even if I forget, I'll still be okay, you give yourself the freedom to speak without pressure. And that freedom is what leads to confidence. Let's get real, confidence doesn't come from knowing every word. It comes from knowing that you can handle it when you forget. From trusting that you can recover. That you can laugh it off, find another way, or simply ask for help. That's true strength. And the more you practice that, the more you prove to yourself that forgetting is not the end of the world, the less afraid you become. Eventually, it doesn't stop you anymore. It becomes just another part of the journey. Think about a time you forgot a word, and still kept going. Maybe you paused. Maybe you stumbled. But you found a way. That's powerful. That's resourcefulness. And that moment? That's the exact kind of experience that builds your fluency. Because fluency isn't about perfection, it's about resilience. It's about staying in the conversation even when it feels uncomfortable. It's about trusting your voice even when it shakes. In fact, every time you forget a word but choose to speak anyway, you're building a muscle inside you, the muscle of courage. That muscle gets stronger the more you use it. And the stronger it gets, the easier speaking becomes. One day, you'll be in a conversation, and the words will just come. Not because you memorized every single one, but because you gave yourself permission to speak imperfectly. And you know what else happens when you give yourself permission to forget? You become more open. More present. More real. People feel that. They're not judging you, they're listening to you. They're connecting with your effort, your energy, your message. They're seeing the human behind the words. And that matters way more than perfect pronunciation or perfect grammar. Here's another truth that many learners forget: communication is not a test, it's a collaboration. It's two people working together to understand each other. You don't need to carry the whole conversation on your back. You're allowed to pause. To ask. To clarify. You're allowed to forget a word and say, "How do you say?" That doesn't make you weak. That makes you real. That makes you brave. And often, the person you're talking to will appreciate your honesty more than any perfect sentence. Also, don't be afraid to simplify. You don't need to use the most advanced word to make your point. If you forget spectacular, say very good. If you forget confused, say I don't understand. Simpler language doesn't mean lesser language. It means you're communicating effectively, and that's the goal. Complexity can come later. What matters now is connection. And here's a little bonus tip: next time you forget a word, write down the situation. Not just the word, but what you were doing, what you were trying to say, how it felt. This creates a strong memory. Because your brain remembers emotions and context much more than isolated words. Then, when you review that word again, it's tied to a real moment in your life. And that makes it stick. Forgetting also teaches you humility. It reminds you that learning takes time. That everyone has gaps, even after years of study. And that's okay. Because those gaps are where growth happens. They are not signs of failure, they are invitations. Invitations to explore more. To stay curious. To keep learning without shame. Let me say this clearly, in case you need to hear it today, forgetting a word does not mean you're not smart. It does not mean you're not improving. It does not mean you should give up. It means you are human. And being human is what makes language beautiful. So the next time you forget a word, breathe. Smile. Say, I'll remember it next time. Then keep going. Don't stop. Don't apologize. Don't hide. Because your voice matters, even when it's not perfect. Especially when it's not perfect. And remember, your goal is not to be a perfect speaker. Your goal is to be a brave one. A consistent one. A learner who keeps showing up, keeps trying, and keeps growing, one forgotten word at a time. So, if there's one thing I hope you carry with you after today's episode, it's this: forgetting a word doesn't mean you're failing, it means you're learning. It means your brain is stretching. It means you're in motion. And that's what learning really is. You don't need to have perfect recall. You don't need to speak flawlessly. You just need to keep showing up. To keep trying. To keep trusting your voice, even when a word slips away. Because that moment of forgetting is not the end of your story. It's just one sentence in a much bigger chapter. A chapter full of progress, courage, and growth. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today on Easy Peasy English. I hope this episode reminded you that your voice matters, with or without the perfect word. That your journey is valid. And that forgetting isn't something to be ashamed of, it's something to embrace. So be kind to yourself. Be proud of every sentence you speak, even the messy ones. And the next time you forget a word, smile. That's just your brain making space for something new. Keep learning. Keep growing. And most of all, keep going. Your English doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be yours. And the world needs to hear it. Take care, and I'll see you in the next episode of Easy Peasy English.